Just hit record. All right. Good morning, Debbie Boone. How are you?
I'm doing very well, considering
Yeah.
all things. I'm not. I'm not in the path of the hurricane, and
Oh,
I can work from home, so life is good. You know,
yes. Seriously, counting our blessings when we have them.
that's right.
Well, Debbie, it's so good to have you on the podcast. We have yet to really dive into talking to someone in the veterinary space. And it's a special space because so many of us have animals and they're practically family members. I have 2 dogs and I
Okay.
love them dearly. And it's probably just such a joy to help people and their pets.
It is, and most veterinarians decide they want to be veterinarians by between the time they're 5 and 10 years old. So
Really?
it is a life calling for them.
I have a niece
And
who's that way. She just loves
yeah,
animals, and and as an adult, like we say, like, yeah, you'll be a vet when you grow up. And no, like, I'm sure, like, as a kid, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be an astronaut. And it's
right.
different. I did not realize. That is so cool.
They are very focused, very committed. And here's another fact that people don't realize is that it's more difficult to get into veterinary school than human medical school.
Really?
Yes. So if you want great medical advice, ask your vet. They probably won't tell you because it jeopardizes their license. But I can tell you that I've never had a major health problem that I didn't run past my veterinarians because they're so smart.
Well,
And
and they
they,
probably I
one of
mean, how much does anatomy change? This is like such a tangential question, but
Oh, it
across
well,
different animals.
it really, this is our challenge in veterinary medicine is because people think they're so attached, like you said, they're family, right? So they're so attached to their pets that they give them human qualities. But the problem with that is they don't metabolize things the way that humans do.
Yeah.
So they really are not small humans. Dogs and cats, extremely different in just medication doses. I'll give you a perfect example. Many times over the years, we have medicated animals for thyroid conditions and had human pharmacists reject or change the thyroid medication because it's sometimes 10 to 15 times a dose for a cat that a human would require of the same
What?
medication. Yes.
That's wild. They're so much smaller.
Yes. It's all about the metabolism. And if you give a dog Advil, it will kill it.
Oh, good to
Yes.
know.
So absolutely no Advil for dogs because it causes liver failure.
Wow.
So we really are so concerned in veterinary medicine a lot of times because people will Google things and they get a lot of misinformation and poor
Mm,
advice from the internet when the safest bet is always to call somebody who has 8 years of training and a lifetime of experience caring for animals because like I said, they started at 5 years old to do that and ask them instead of trying to do some research out there on your own because there's a lot of wacko stuff out there, human side and
yeah.
veterinary side.
Yeah,
A
I
lot of
mean,
wacko stuff.
everybody wants to self-diagnose.
Yes, yes, and I'm guilty too. I've been to WebMD.
Yep.
One of my friends said, "You know what? I diagnosed myself with cancer 5 times. I'm not looking up anything else."
Oh my
Valid point.
gosh. It's so funny because it's true.
It is true.
Oh man. So how did you get your start? I mean, outside of this love and passion as a child,
Right. Yeah.
what was your start into the veterinary space after school, probably?
After school. Well, I do have a degree in animal science. My
Right.
goal in life was to be a veterinarian. And I went to North Carolina State. I have a degree in animal science in the pre-vet curriculum. But after 4 years of undergrad, I went, I'm done. I don't want to go to school anymore. But I still loved it, right? So my family owned businesses growing up. They owned restaurants. I've always laughingly said they were firm believers in child labor. So my brother and I both started working when we were really young kids. And I just grew up in people, in business. By the time I was 15, I was running P&L. So I had this background in
You
how to
were
run a
running
business
P&L.
at 15. Yeah.
What?
Our bookkeeper was teaching me how to do it. And they were done like manually, no QuickBooks, right? It was like way back in the day. They were all
Wow.
so when I got out of school, I started to run one of my family's restaurants, but I never ever wanted to do that. So my husband and I moved to Greensboro for his job, and I went to every veterinary hospital there, and I asked for a job, and I got a job as a part-time receptionist in this hospital. And I stayed there for about 6 months at minimum wage, and I thought, I'm going to starve to death. I've got to get out of this. And I left, and I managed a fabric shop, and then I managed a jewelry department in a large retailer. And then one day I sold one of my associate veterinarians a watch, and my former practice owner called me up and said, come over here and talk to me. My wife tells me I need a manager. She's really sick of me coming home every night at 10 o'clock. So
yeah.
And so he made me the hospital administrator of this practice, and I managed it for 19 years until he was right close to retiring. And then I got another job opportunity with a very large animal hospital that had 11 veterinarians in it.
Oh, wow.
And it was open 24 hours, and we managed the shelter for the county. We had large animal practice in there too, so it was a mixed animal practice. And I ran that one for 3.5 years until the recession hit.
Yes. And then, oh my gosh, Kay, this is so, I'm sure so many people will be like, oh my gosh, how did you, what happened? Tell us, Debbie.
Yes. So I have this great job, great benefits, very significant salary. And my boss comes in and says, I can't afford you anymore.
And how old
You're doing a great job, but I'm going to have to lay you off.
Were you, what was your personal life at the time? Were you a mom or?
Well, my husband and I, we don't have any kids, but we had just like 3 or 4 months prior to that bought a second home. So we had a vacation that we just bought. And this was, I mean, we bought it in 2007 when the economy was hot, and he owned his own business too. So we, you know, I had the stable job, and he had a well-established flooring business.
Oh, goodness.
And then all of a sudden, bang.
Yes.
Nothing. And I thought, well, you know, I know everybody. I've been doing this 23 years. I'll have a job in a week, because I had over the years, a lot of people asked me to come to work for them.
Yeah.
And so I just reached out to my network, but everybody was terrified, right? The economy was tanking. Nobody was hiring. Everybody was actually letting people go, just like my boss had. And I thought, wow, okay, what am I going to do here? But I had been doing consulting work and key opinion leader stuff for animal health industries and some like private things.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I loved it. I always really wanted to do that. And my husband just looked at me and said, you know what? You've always wanted to do it. Just do it. I went, really? Okay, I'm going to. And so I laughed. I told you earlier, when I got laid off, I didn't even take time to think of the name of my business. I just needed an email address fast.
Yeah.
So I just randomly pulled this out of the air and called it To Manage Vets Consulting and made a Gmail account. And that's how my business got started, with a Gmail account, so that I could forward emails from where I was working. And then I just reached out to all my network and said, okay, guys, here's what I'm doing. And they went, great. And honest, those relationships that I had built over those 23 years, they immediately put me to work. And I've been working ever since.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say, what was that feeling like to, like, okay, here I have something where I know I have to leave my house at a certain time. They're expecting me. All of a sudden moving to I am the driver of what keeps me busy from day to day. Yes. What was that like?
Well, you know, it's a challenge to get into a rhythm. I think that's the hardest thing. So when I first started my business, I set up an office in my house. And I realized that I was building content. I was, you know, working social media. I was doing some marketing plans, because my consultancy is very general. Since I managed practices for so many years, I have a lot of skill sets there. So it's just general practice management, but I love marketing. That's my favorite thing. So I was building marketing plans, but then I'd say, I need to walk the dog. And I would leave and walk the dog. And then I go, oh, I could throw some laundry in. And then I would throw some laundry in.
I am experiencing all of this right now with COVID, and I'm loving it.
That. Yes. And so you're going, okay, this is getting out of hand. So then I moved my office out of my house because I was so distracted and moved it into a room in my husband's business so that I had my own office. And then, of course, as a consultant, you travel a lot, and
Yeah.
then you have to discipline yourself to work in hotel rooms and be portable enough with your work to be able to carry everything with you and actually accomplish things when you're sitting there in a room instead of, vegging out, hitting the mini bar and watching TV at night. So a lot of this it's a developed self-discipline, I think. And now I work at home again. We moved about a year and a half ago to North Myrtle Beach, and which is a great place to be quarantined for COVID, by the way. If you're gonna be quarantined, thank God I am here. But I set myself a schedule, and I get up at a certain time, I eat breakfast, sometimes I do some yoga before I start to work, and then I work at my desk, and then I eat lunch at this time, and then I stop at a certain time at night. Now, it is hard to turn it off, and it's harder when you're newer because you have so much work to do, and it's just you. Over the years, I've been doing this 15 years now. Over the years, I've developed some team members, and they're subcontractors, but I've managed to farm out work that I don't necessarily have to have a hand in. It's not intellectual for me. And I think that's a mistake that some entrepreneurs do make, is that they want to control everything.
Yeah.
And eventually you have to realize you don't have the bandwidth to do everything. You've got to piecemeal some stuff out. In fact, one of the lectures that I give is on delegation and talking to managers, talking to veterinary practice owners, and have them create 3 lists. And the first list is stuff that you can immediately delegate to people, like opening the mail. I mean, people are opening the mail, and you're like, really? You don't have a receptionist that you're paying $10 an hour to do that? The second one is things that if I train somebody, then I could delegate those things. And the third thing is the thing I can do. And you hold on and keep those. But then you look at list number 3 and go, okay, is there something that I eventually can move those over to somebody else because maybe they have confidentiality components and things like that, or they require intellectual thinking for the services that you're rendering. So you gotta learn to sort things out and utilize other people, especially if you're a business owner.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny how you don't realize it until maybe you start asking, but there are people who are really niche or focused on like these specific things that you might need. And I've learned that recently. At Weave, our VP of marketing is so good at getting freelancers and contractors, and we need this thing. Okay, I'm not good at it. We don't necessarily have someone on staff for it, but I know I can find someone. And
Absolutely.
It has been a phenomenal lesson for me to witness and see that it's not a deterrent to get things done. It is, it's something that you have to consider with your budget, but at the same time, and I'm going to bring out my economics background where we talked so much about opportunity cost. Is it worth your time with the skills and passion that you have? If you could be doing that or something else in that time, which is more valuable? And it's okay to pay someone to do said thing so that you can do the other more valuable thing or the thing that you're better at.
Exactly. Well, just recently I started a new client, and the veterinary practice owner is writing the bills. And I said, that's a $20 an hour job and you are a professional. So you're not leveraging your time wisely, because in a veterinary practice, the veterinarians drive the income. And so you can hire a bookkeeper to do that who can't drive revenue, and you can go and have fun and see puppies and kittens and actually drive revenue into the hospital.
Well, and to that point, right? Like, there's only so much time in the day. And so if you do fill your time with those things that as you're saying, like, isn't necessarily a revenue driver. And if you are the revenue driver of the business, like, I get that it needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But there really does come, like, either it's an emotional detachment or the ability to trust someone or whatever it might be. But there might be some mental barriers that you have to get over to recognize that, okay, yes, this needs to get done. I do it well. It's nice to know that I get it done. And maybe there's some sense of control that you really enjoy by maintaining that. But when it comes to healthy business operations, it needs to be reconsidered.
Exactly. Well, the things that, for example, the things that I sort out, I have somebody who does social media posting for me. I write blogs. I write blogs for Weave now, but I love writing, but nobody can write it because this is my brain power using the blogs, but I don't have to be the one who posts them or looks at the analytics. Or makes the graphics. So my social media company does graphic design. They set up MailChimp accounts for me, and so that's sorted out. One of the services that I offer practices is phone shoppers, and so we're listening to reception skills and what is going on in that animal hospital and getting a transcription of it so that we can actually coach that front desk to do a better job answering the phones, because that's the driver of the hospital. If you can't answer your phones well, people don't come in to your business. Or if your receptionist is snarky, they're turned off and they call the next guy down the road. So all about that. And that's just, I know we're talking a little about Weave, but not all about Weave. But this is one of the things that I just turned cartwheels when I found out that you could record every single phone call and listen to what your front desk is saying to people.
It is so important to know what your brand is, what it stands for, what it looks like, what it feels like, and hire people who will represent that and then train or coach to reinforce that. Because like you're saying, I remember my first job after college, it was a big software company, but I remember someone saying, like, it is so important to us that our front desk people behave in a certain manner and greet in a certain way, because for some people, whether it's people who are interviewing or people who are coming to visit from another company or whatever it might be, that's their first interaction. And you need, no matter your business, like, you need to find like this uniformity or even like standard of communication and interaction with your customers or patients.
Well, I can remember I teach a class for one of the veterinary distribution companies, and it's a communication and client service class. And one of the students told me about calling another veterinary hospital one day to get patient records transferred. And she looked on the Google search to find the phone number for this practice and saw an incredible amount of negative reviews. And all the negative reviews were about the receptionist at the front desk. So she called the hospital and said, "This is Jane from XYZ Animal Hospital, and I'm calling to get patient records for Spot." And the girl said, "I don't have time," and slammed the phone down.
Stop.
Yes.
Oh.
And I said, and the practice owner will never realize why all of those patient records are drifting out of his practice to other hospitals. And it has nothing to do with his medicine, and it has nothing to do with the animals and their cure rate. It has everything to do with how nasty this person is on his front desk.
It's interesting too, because like, I was so sad and so unfortunate, and that almost makes my heart hurt for him. But it just goes to show that we're not stuck with one option anymore. And we're also not just comparing one industry with another provider within that same industry. We compare cross industry, I think that's the best way to explain it. Like, you think of like the emergence of Amazon and the convenience that Amazon has brought to all of our lives, and how things from that totally remotely different business can impact the way that our customers or patients are viewing us. And if we don't open our eyes and let ourselves see it, we will be baffled and be like, well, what's going wrong? What's wrong? But like that.
Yes.
Oh man.
You've got to pay attention to what people expect of you. And you can't keep doing the same thing you've always done, because that might have been fine for a generation prior, but a generation now who, especially after COVID, my husband will go to the door and go, what did you get from Amazon today? And there'll be another box at the door. Well, I ordered a book, or I ordered this.
Don't worry about it.
No, it's so easy. I mean, that's just it. And returns, so easy.
Yeah.
And we need to make it as easy and seamless as we can for people, and make it easy to do business with you. Make it easy for people to find you. Have a website that's not from 1997 that your cousin built. Do stuff like that. I had a really interesting phone call yesterday with a sales rep, and he was talking about veterinary hospitals are doing curbside care. Most hospitals are not letting people in the building just because the sanitation would take longer than, and we just couldn't care for the animals as well. So people were sitting in their cars, but our instructions to them are, call us when you get to the parking lot, tell us what parking space number you're in, and we will come out and get your pet. But the problem is they have 2 phone lines and 4 people trying to call in to the hospital while they're also on the phone. So people are getting very, very frustrated from the parking lot trying to follow our instructions, but they can't get it through. So if we could just text or have multiple phone lines, we've got to pay attention to what we're doing. And then we're upset because people are upset with us and they're being snarky, but we set them on fire, right? So we are the ones who messed up when we didn't think about our infrastructure is not going to manage what we're asking people to do. And that's our problem. So you've really got to pay attention to opportunity. I think, technology is such a huge opportunity, and it is challenging. I was on a conference actually yesterday, and we talked about the future of veterinary medicine and technology and the parts that it will play. And our challenge for me is keeping up with it all.
Yeah.
There's so much, and it moves so fast, and there's so many little players out there that, this one has an app that does this, and this one does a phone system that does this, and this one transcribes your records for you, and then this one you can point it at an animal and get your, heart rates, and then there's a thermometer that, you don't have to put in your dog's rear end anymore. You can put it under their armpit. It's a huge plus. But those are just 4 little new technologies that have come out that can be utilized. And then there's 5,000 more that could possibly come over into the veterinary space. And so it is overwhelming. And if you're busy, which right now, since veterinarians are essential, they are actually having this incredible uptake in business. Everybody got a pandemic puppy. Everybody's home.
Because we all need a huge shot of hormone boosting goodness that puppies give us.
Little oxytocin coming out there. And so we have that, but all those animals need care. And now the veterinarians are booking 4 to 6 weeks out. Some of them, especially those who couldn't do routine services during a particular lockdown period of time. Now, all that has been backed up.
Yep.
And our clients are upset because it's taken so long to get in. But again, like we said, there's only physically so much you can do. And everybody's just doing the best they can right now.
Yeah. Well, you talked about so much there that I kind of want to try and combine it or summarize it in the context of really understanding your customer's journey. And so much of that, well, not so much of it, but some of it happens without your knowledge. And the first thing that I wanted to go back to was those Google reviews that were all about that receptionist, right?
Yes.
Where you think if someone goes online in that neighborhood and does veterinarian near me, and it pulls that company up, those reviews immediately push them to their competitor.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they have no idea just how much opportunity they're missing out on because of that initial impression online where they don't even interact with them. And then, like, if you trace the customer journey through those things, you know, then you get to, okay, let's say Google reviews were good, but they call in and that snarky receptionist hangs up on them. There's
Yes.
another data point that you don't necessarily know. I'll make a quick, sorry, I've got like my little 1-year-old got me sick. So I have
Oh gosh.
a little runny nose.
Yeah.
But you think of like, that's what I was going to say. I was going to make a plug for Weave because you can still see with phone analytics how many customers have called and how many non-customers have called. And, you know, if you're really unsure of how snarky your receptionist is, you can then maybe do some quick napkin math to see, okay, we've got a lot of non-customer calls, but no new customers. So there's a disconnect here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Something's
you can,
going on.
yeah, and you can go down the line of this customer journey and really dive into, okay, how can I deliver not just a better service, but a better experience and really knock their socks off no matter where they're at in that journey, whether it's there's someone looking for a new vet or someone who has a pet, they've been with you for years and they're trying to get in and it's COVID madness or they're trying to pay their bill or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the callback feature of Weave that if we are busy and we can't get to it, then we can immediately, as soon as we can, you know, and the client is notified of, we'll call you back in just a minute, and we can make that call back because we're losing those calls. And if we, I mean, right now, you know, a lot of veterinary hospitals are not even taking new clients, but COVID will be over and we will be back to where we were. Then we have an opportunity to really impress somebody by calling them back and say, I'm so sorry I missed your call. You know, how can we help you today? And then making sure that you're reconnecting with those people and giving them an opportunity to ask their question or find out what it is that you can do to serve them.
Well, so I love that feature too, that when someone calls, whether it's a customer or non-customer, they get that text that says, hey, sorry, we missed you. You can text us here, or you can customize it to say whatever you want. Did you know, like when it comes to like someone calling for the first time who's a prospect, did you know that 30 to 50% of business goes to, oh my gosh, how do I phrase this? The first vendor. Yeah. And if you miss that call and that you don't have a feature like this missed call text that still helps you capture that person, that the business goes to 30 to 50% of business goes to the vendor who responds first.
Well, this is one of the reasons that it's so important. We talked about the Google search and Google, a year or so ago, changed their algorithm. And though they usually keep that a huge secret, actually told programmers that if you don't have 5-star reviews, then you're not coming to the top of our list, no matter how much you're putting in such and such city, North Carolina.
Well, it's not just 5 stars, but it's also recent and frequent.
It's recent, frequent, and number. So if you have, 11 5-stars and somebody else has 500 5-stars, they're going to come up to the top of the search and people are going to start there. So I never look at ads. I mean, I know that people advertise on Google, but if I'm going to find a company, I'm going right to organic search. I don't want the crap that comes with the ads and the nonsense. I want to go right to whoever pops up to the top of that list. And that's why it is so important that we drive reviews and that they are excellent reviews. And veterinarians are funny because they are such perfectionists that if they have 50 wonderful 5-stars, we worship the ground you walk on, and then there's this one snarky review, they just fret over that review and fret over it. And I went, look, when I'm traveling, and I used to travel a lot, and when I'm traveling, I absolutely go to a hotel and I look at the reviews and I look down and everybody's pleased, pleased, pleased. And then there's the one. And I can find a jerk in a crowd in a heartbeat, and everybody else can too. So there's some people that nobody could please because they just walk around with a chip on their shoulder all the time, or they're having a bad day and it just roll downhill.
Yep, they got cut off right before you asked them for a review. Or I don't know.
Something happened. But if the majority of people are having a really good experience, then our consumers are wise enough now to look at that and go, okay, this one, we've had one of those customers too. We totally get it.
But at the same
as
time,
long as there's a response.
Well, and even I'd even argue that even if there isn't a response, granted, I would always encourage a response.
Mm-hmm.
But even if there isn't, it just makes you look real. Like, because to your point, we can't please everyone. If you have 500 reviews and all 500 of them are 5 stars, it's like,
They gave the system, right? That they're all your cousins and aunts and uncles, and you had them all come in and type. That's nice.
And so
exactly right.
The occasional bad review is not going to destroy you. And especially as you're getting up in those numbers, and you have a high quantity, it's also not going to ping your average star rating because you have so many there to soften that blow. And then that one just is like, you know what? We're all humans. They're a human. Something happened. It's okay.
Well, it also goes back to brand, and we talked a little bit about that. But if you are, a higher end, very high quality medicine practice, maybe you're AHA accredited, very bells and whistles, high service, and somebody comes in and they think you're too expensive, then they've just walked into the wrong business for them. They're your branding has got to kind of funnel the right customer into your business. We don't need every customer. We just need the customer that's a fit for us. And so veterinarians, they want to serve all animals, but I think sometimes their branding is muddy. And the wrong person will walk in the door who doesn't really want that level of service. And then in the reverse is true too. Somebody could walk into maybe a lower cost clinic and go, well, this is not what I wanted at all. I want somebody who's, doing blood work, and I want somebody who's, talking about all these different things for my pet, and not just this 15-minute quick in and out. So you can be dissatisfied on both ends of the spectrum. And that really comes from not having a clear brand message that goes out into the world and sort of self-selects the customer that's going to walk in your door.
Yes. I feel like we talk about this on the podcast so much, but like sometimes you don't realize just how much it applies, that like you think it might be a good idea to cast your net broad. Mm-hmm. When really it's just so much better to know exactly who you're looking for, use your brand and messaging to appeal to them, and have a higher conversion rate within that. And it's not necessarily, it is smaller, but it's like not necessarily smaller at the same time, because it's not like you're just hitting these 100 individuals. It's still a large pool, but it's focused. It's focused effort.
Yes, it is. Well, and the other thing too is it makes your life so much better.
Yeah.
Because you are not constantly battling with the customer who's wants something different than you want to give.
Yep.
And that's kind of breaks your heart a little bit, and it's extremely frustrating on both parts. And nobody likes to be, have an upset customer, be verbally abused at work. So if we can be really clear in our marketing strategy, be extremely communicative with our customer about what to expect, then we're going to have a much clearer path. I read a lot of stuff on Facebook. I've been in a lot of manager groups, and people are very ornery right now. That's to say it politely, that they're ornery. Some people are just being horrible. There was a lady and her daughter a couple of weeks ago in Canada who actually attacked a veterinarian over a guinea pig. And it's a crazy story, but the veterinarian was a specialty emergency clinic. Their exotics veterinarian had already gone off shift. Nobody there knew what to do with the guinea pig. And the people insisted on having it seen. I think there was fault at both ends of it. First of all, I think the veterinarian should have said, hey, we'll give it a shot. And then if we can't do anything about it, then, maybe we'll call the exotics veterinarian and ask what to do. But then the people were wrong because they decided to have a sit-in in front of the front door, and the police had to be called, and then they hit the veterinarian over basically a guinea pig. So people were just upset. They're just upset in all directions. And it being really, really clear and over communicating what needs to happen. I do a lot of research on neuroscience, and that helps me a lot with behavior, because understanding how people's brain works really is very good for understanding how to help them in business. And right now, if everybody is on sort of this adrenaline and cortisol overload, every time we turn around, we're being bombarded with negative things. There's a lot of disruption. Our habits, we have no habits anymore. Our routine is shot. Our kids are home. None of this is supposed to be the way things work. And because of that, our brain is very tired. And when that happens, we're in this constant limbic brain state of stress and fear.
Yeah.
We never make smart decisions that way because we're being run by emotion and not logic. And we need to realize that people can't remember stuff either. So one of the things I learned recently that I think is very important for us to remember is when we're instructing people of maybe our new systems, new protocols, is that when we tell people something, they remember about 10% of it.
Yeah.
And this is pre-COVID data.
Yep.
So they're remembering even less than that. But when we attach a picture to it, their memory of it increases 65%. Now that's a huge increase. So if we are sending out this little checklist to clients that says, remember to pull in your parking space, remember to bring your phone, remember to fill out your pre-visit form, well, that's fine. It's a list. But if we would just put little pictures with them as we went through that list,
I love that.
Their brain would work so much better. So I actually just created one. I'm going to put it out on my website and social media, share with people, because it's just a pre-visit checklist for animal provider hospitals to say, okay, here's the curbside protocol. Here's the pictures that go with the list of the things that we do.
That's brilliant. It's the little things that really matter. And as you were talking about that, so my husband is an educator, and he this is his second year not in the classroom, and he seems to be doing okay. He loves being in the classroom. But he would often come back and tell me stories of some of his students. He taught in a high school that was in a more lower income neighborhood. And he's like, you know what, you can't take these students out of the context of where they're coming from before they enter those doors. To your point about like high cortisol levels and stress and stuff, he's like, a kid could have just lost a nana, or he often tell me stories of students who were homeless and living in their cars. And you can't say like, okay, well, check that at the door and come in and learn.
Right.
And as you kind of, this is so applicable no matter what. If you can really understand the context in which humans are coming to you in, no matter your profession, no matter like where you're at, and take a step back and be able to help address those things before like getting to like business, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
You will have a much greater impact on that individual and their lives, which then provides a better experience, makes for better business, builds a relationship, which is that long-standing relationship in business that you can rely on. It's just a better way to do everything.
Sure. Well, for me, I'm a consultant. And so coming into a practice is very nerve-wracking for the practice owner and the practice manager, because they feel like here's this expert coming in scrutinizing everything that they've done. And I'm not there to be judgmental. I'm just there to help. And that's the first thing you have to get over with was, tell me what's bothering you. Tell me how I can help you. Tell me what you're struggling with. And then we'll work on that. I'll teach you. I'll be your teacher and your educator. I'm not going to come in as this dictator that says you have to do A, B, C, D, and E. And yeah, do you need to do those things? Sure you do, but it's much more of a soft touch for me than a lot of companies come in and just kind of take over and just, I don't know. They're much more, every now and then I watch that TV show Bar Rescue. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the guy who comes into these bars is just really belligerent. I mean, he's yelling at the people and he's throwing things. And I went, wow. If I ever did that into one of my practice consultations, my people would cry. I go, what?
Debbie, it's because that gets viewers. That's like Hell's Kitchen, where it just pulls people in. Can you hear me, Debbie?
Dentist. Oh, did you come back?
Yeah, I lost you for a
Yeah,
second.
you got frozen.
You were talking about Bar Rescue, and I said
I was talking about Bar Rescue. Yeah,
it's like
so
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, it is. It is. But what I was saying is, I learned that I was doing some research for talk at the dental forum, the veterinary dental forum, and I know we've done a lot of work with dentists, and that's how you got started in the dental space. But one of the stats that struck me was that from the American Dental Association, 80% of dental patients have an inordinate fear of the dentist.
Yeah.
They just hate to go, right? And so much so that about 20% of those people actually put off getting known and needed care, even if they're in pain for their own teeth. So if we know that coming in that they have this fear and we don't address the fear by helping them relax and asking what they're afraid of and asking how we can help, manage through that, then we're going to have people who are going to avoid coming to us until the point where it's so bad that it is, first of all, really expensive in a major procedure, and they've been in pain for a very long time. So it's the same thing with the veterinary space. People are afraid of having their dog's teeth cleaned because they're afraid of anesthesia. They're afraid of a lot of stuff. But what we have to do is address the fear and help them understand the consequences of not being worse than the consequences. Oh, you're back.
Yay.
It just keeps locking up. I can't hear you. No, there you are.
It's totally our internet, so I apologize.
It's, what, knock on wood, it's not mine today, but every day around 2:00, it's mine.
Well, and I, coworkers, and it's like, well, had to have the kiddo stop watching Disney Plus because I have the meeting.
Yes. Shut down everything. Make sure nothing, emails down, everything's down. Yeah.
Seriously. But I think this is a good time to maybe summarize what we've talked about into 3 takeaways. I think I have an idea of how I might do it, but I want to hear what would be your 3 from our conversation.
Well, I think the first one is absolutely pay attention to the humans in your world and do a good job communicating. You cannot over communicate with people is my firm belief. You cannot over communicate with people. And I also think that people want to help you. When I reached out starting my business, looking at that network of people, because of the relationship that I had built with them over the years, they were absolutely not just willing to help me, they were absolutely happy to help me. And
So would you say,
that's
is this your number two? That like
that's my number two. Reach
be
out to
okay
people.
to let people help you. It's
Let
hard.
people help you. Be okay to let people help you. And then address your consumer's pain. Like, what is their pain? What is their fear? Overcome that first before you try to sell them or do work for them. Because if you don't get past that, they're not going to hear you anyway.
Yeah. I thought that was particularly crucial. It's like trying to treat a symptom instead of a disease.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, wonderful, Debbie. Thank you again so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.